Frequency. Oh, that was good. Yeah. महादेव महादेव। ठीक है, फिर शुरू कर सकते हैं। हाँ। Should we start with your question? शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः। ॐ ॐ यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वम् यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै ब्रह्म देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशम् मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या सम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितः प्रज्ञानघनः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। वेदान्तार्थविभासकाय गुरवे शान्ताय सन्न्यासिने नानावादीनगेन्द्रसङ्घपवये योगीन्द्रवन्द्याय च मोहध्वान्तदिवाकराय भगवत्पादाभिधाम् बिभ्रते तस्मै भाष्यकृते नमोऽस्तु सततम् पूर्णाय बोधात्मने। I will rephrase your question. Audible? Can you hear me? This question is, once if the knowledge takes place that Atma, I am Brahman, then what is the need for Vasana Akshaya and Manonash? Is that the question?
Yes. The Manonaksha and Vasanaksha.
Without the prelude of Manonasha and Vasanakshaya, knowledge cannot take place. The very fact that you are saying knowledge has taken place means that these two already have had happened. And therefore, there is no question of all the three uh, uh, to be simultaneously practiced. Because Vasishtha Ramayana and Vidyaranya Swamiji are of the clear opinion that all the three have to be practiced together. I don't know how far you people are ready to go enter into the technicality. Nevertheless, since the question is there, I'm going to, I'm trying to answer. There is no mysticism, there is no mumbo jumbo about this, because this is a very clear, we are talking about knowledge. And when somebody says it is mystical, mysticism, that necessarily means something which cannot be told, spoken, explained, understood, and therefore it is mystical. Right? It cannot be understood means that it will always remain under the shroud of ignorance. So, no matter how much we may glorify mysticism, it is a mystical experience, it cannot be told. That mysticism simply means ignorance is intact. It is a glorification of ignorance. Therefore, there is nothing mystical about it. It is experiential knowledge, it is not intellectual knowledge. It is knowledge. That very thing means that it is buddhigamya, meaning it is a comprehension, it is a cognitive process. Therefore, we have to understand it. Now, in order, because without jumping into the Daivi Sampat and all those things, which is now the beginning of Vasanakshaya, let's get this one point very clear. We may have to spend little time on it, but nevertheless, I'm not in hurry. What do you mean by knowledge taking place? Now forget the knowledge, Atma is Brahman. The very fact that it is knowledge, which means there is something very common about all the knowledges taking place. Whether it is Ghatajnana, Patajnana, or Brahmajnana, whether it is the knowledge of you knowing the pot, you knowing the cloth, or you knowing Brahman. All the three are knowledges. So in this case, you did not know the pot. And then after your experiences, I know the pot. The previous experiences, I don't know what it is. Now you know. So the previous experience is declaration of ignorance. I don't know. The next one is declaration of knowledge. I know. And therefore, between these two, knowledge has taken place, because of which now you can say, I know. Correct. Ghatajnanam has taken place. Our question, therefore, now is, what do you mean by knowledge taking place? It is irrelevant what are you knowing, whether you are knowing a Ghata, Pata, or Brahman, irrelevant at this point. How do you know is the question. What do you know is another category of question. But how do you know is the question. You understand? Hmm? Knowing the pot, you require Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. Subject or object, knowledge is knowledge. Huh? What you are knowing that pot now, which guru now you has some Brahmadev has to descend down. So Vriddha Vyavahara. You're talking about Vriddha Vyavahara. Some you know, somebody in the family or so introduces, this is a pot, this is a cow, this is a crow, so on and so forth. And looking at that Vyavahara, the words will carry meaning for you. That's one thing. But even after that, that something which is round in shape, made of clay, with a hollow inside and a mouth on the top, is called as a pot. This particular cognition, this knowledge you already have. But in when you enter this room, say suppose there is a cloth lying on that pot, covering it. And therefore you do not know what is under the cloth. And therefore you cannot say, I know. You are going to say, I don't know. So now what is it that when will you say, I know? When that cloth is removed. One. Say suppose if the cloth is removed, but your eyes are closed. Your eyes are open, but the mind is absent. You still cannot know the point. Now you see how many factors are involved even in knowing a simple thing as that just every experience of yours. To put it in simple words, we are going to say that object and the equipment of knowledge should come in contact with each other. And the equipment of knowledge also should be functional and in the optimum conditions where the contact between the object and the equipment takes place, knowledge is generated. So your eyes, chakshurindriya, and actually in the tradition, we do not accept the visual faculty to be these balls of meat, flesh, huh? Eyeballs. This is not chakshurindriya. Huh? This is just a golaka. The visual faculty is the part of the sukshma deha. The jnanendriyas, the karmendriyas are the part of the sukshma deha, not of the sthula deha. So now the chakshurindriya is backed by the mind. Mind is available. So now you have an instrument to know the colors and forms. Is now ready. But say, suppose if it is dark outside, will you still know? If the cloth still remains on the pot, would you still know? No. So you require external conditions which are optimum, which do not cover or obscure the path of your vision meeting the object. This indriya and that object has to establish a contact. Sannikarsha should take place. Once this happens, the Ghatakara vritti takes place. Immediately there is a cognition, a thought form, which assumes the form of the part takes place. As a result of this Ghatakara vritti, the avidya, ignorance which is covering the part, gets destroyed, and thus the part is illumined. Your experiences, aham ghatam janami, I know the part. This is the process of knowledge taking place. Understand what is important in this? That we require to have an equipment, a system through which the knowledge takes place. In absence of the visual faculty, chakshurindriya, the knowledge of colors and forms can never take place. You may have a sharp faculty of hearing, auditory faculty, but that does not allow you to know the colors and forms. This faculty will illumine the world of sounds for you, but this faculty cannot be a replacement to the visual faculty. True? Now, you have several knowledges. When you look at the smoke in the mountain, your knowledge is there is fire in the mountain. Your visual faculty has allowed you to know there is smoke in the mountain. The question is, what has allowed you to know fire in the mountain because you are not seeing the flames, nor are you feeling the heat on the skin, because both of these can be perceived by their respective faculties, and so you can know there is the presence of fire. But you are 10 miles away, and yet your knowledge is there is fire in the mountain. So now you have Vyapti, you have an previous knowledge. Now pay attention to this, all of you, because from here then we will move into the next pramana. You have the knowledge that wherever there is smoke, there is fire. You already have this knowledge. Now, this knowledge has allowed you to know fire in the mountain. So, knowledge of the fire in the mountain has taken place not through any other means of knowledge, but it has taken place through earlier knowledge. So the earlier knowledge has functioned as the equipment, as a system to generate next knowledge. So knowledge has taken place, A, of the Vyapti, means Niyamena Sahacharyam. Wherever there is fire, there is smoke, is not cannot be the Vyapti. Because you can have fire without smoke, but you cannot have smoke without the fire. Okay. Now, what happens is we have understood that some knowledge also can become the equipment, the system, the means to generate another knowledge. Is this accepted? This becomes clear? Any problem about this? No. So, one knowledge A is required because it is knowledge. This knowledge also is generated by another means. Don't forget that. Your previous experience of seeing the fire, the smoke and the fire, association of smoke and the fire on innumerable occasions has allowed you to know there is vyapti, there is niyamena sahacharyam, their coexistence as a rule. Got it? So knowledge A is there. Because it is knowledge, it also is generated by another means. This is how the knowledge progresses. This knowledge now generates yet another knowledge. So what is it that you are going to call this knowledge as? The knowledge through which the next knowledge is generated. What is the function of this knowledge? What is the status of this knowledge? Okay, give me another word for it. Hmm? Arey bhai, in our present context, I have used it. This knowledge A is this knowledge A is the means. Exactly. Now it has assumed the position of being a pramana. Just as your eyes or just as your visual faculty was a pramana in the earlier case, now the equipment is not any visual faculty or so. The equipment is knowledge itself. So, though this is knowledge, but this knowledge creates another knowledge. Through Shravana, one knowledge gets created. Atma is Brahman. This is the Tatparya Nishchaya of the Upanishads. Shravanam is not listening. Because it is Shabda Pramana, you will have to listen. But just listening does not make Shravanam. Unless and until it culminates in Nishchaya, Tatparya Nishchaya. Unless and until it turns into conclusive understanding. So technically, what are we going to call Shravanam as? Tatparya Nishchayam. And therefore, this is not poetic. Shravanam you should do from the Guru. And so, with all your hearts, your eyes open, ears open, listen to the Guru, absorb the Guru. And don't have any spiritual romanticism. Shravanam is clear. Otherwise, with all your hearts open, mind open, this open, that open, how many, everything, every door, window open, let all mosquitoes come in. The Shravanam. What is Shravanam? Tatparya Nishchayaha. When will you say it is Shravanam? Only when the Tatparya Nishchaya has taken place. Just attending. I go, काय बोलता है? Otherwise, these people have no. These people have created a big spiritual romanticism about this. You have to listen to the teacher, like the heartbeat, like how the wind flows on the sea, and what is that? Like how a mother listens to the heartbeats of a baby in her womb, like that, with so much attention and tenderness. You should listen to the Guru. What are you creating? What is this? Tatparya Nishchayaha, meaning conclusive understanding. Tatparya means conclusion. If you want the technical meaning of the word Tatparyam, it means Vakturicha Tatparyam. Tatparyam means hmm? Vaktuhu Shashti Vibhakti Ichha Tatparyam. The intention of the speaker is called as Tatparyam. What is it that he wants to convey through these words? To, to pick that up. So he has spoken so that you can understand something. That is called as Tatparyam. Vakturicha Tatparyam. Not that he is trying to signal you or tell you something, Eh, like he may be talking good things, but the Vakta has ichha that he should be appreciated, applauded. That is not Vakta's ichha. That is the desire of a person who has a low self esteem. When it is Vakta, it means the very fact that he is using the speech is to convey something that is there in his intelligence, that he has understood. Vakturicha Tatparyam. So Tatparya Nishchaya. Whose Tatparya Nishchaya? Of the Upanishad is called as Shravanam. Is Upanishad the speaker? Does Upanishad speak? So Upanishad speaks through the mouth of the teacher. Is it? The teacher doesn't speak. But whose Tatparya Nishchaya you want, the teachers or of the Upanishad? Eh? Upanishad. You know the teacher is Brahmanistha. You know what is Brahman. You know what is Nishtha. How would you know? When you do not know what is Brahman, you want to know what is Brahman, then you already have a claim that I know he's a Brahmanistha. What is this? कसलं गौड बंगाल हा कसला गुंता करून ठेवलेला आहे प्रकरण जटिल होईल you understand where the problem is I have full faith this teacher has reached question reached wherever he must have reached बहुत पहुंचे हुए हैं कहाँ पहुंचे हैं वो बताओ और दूसरी बात पहुंचे है या नहीं है तुम जरूर पहुंचा दोगे that's why when it comes to this I have always said that I have not found anything as clean as Shankaracharya, anyone as swachh, clean. कोई जादूगरी नहीं है इसमें निर्मल then what happens is Upanishad is in form of words These are words. The speaker employs the words, but the words by themselves have something to convey. For example, the word is camel. So if I say bring camel, what would you understand? Bring me that particular animal, camel. In India, we have an ink, when we used to go to school. Camel ink, correct? Camel, famous. So if this fellow is writing and he says, bring me camel, it means that bring me ink. If he's just about wearing slippers and going out, bring me camel, means he wants to, he's riding on the camel outside. So but the words have their own meaning. Words have their own to convey. You can change the meaning of the words by context, with reference to context. Hmm? When the pot is on the fire and you are going to say it is hot, what does it mean? That it will burn the fingers, correct? But when you are eating a sauce and you say it is very hot, what does it mean? Has it burnt your tongue? Have you got boils because of that? It simply means it is pungent, spicy. So the word hot has changed its meaning from something that can scorch or burn to being spicy. You understand? Words have their own meaning to convey. Words have their own meaning to convey, but there are certain conditions under which the words may also change the meaning. If I say my neighbor's son is a donkey, then means that this fellow is just silly, stupid, foolish. Is not it? Swamiji, don't say something like that. You're very judgmental. I'm going to say it does not matter. The son is just like the father. So the word donkey has changed its meaning. So you require certain conditions to be fulfilled for the words to replace their meaning. But under all the general conditions, the word has its own meaning. So the Shruti, the Upanishads, by the virtue our words have their own intention to convey, they have meaning to convey. Therefore, when we are going to say Tatparya Nishchaya of the Upanishad, it simply means those words are going to generate knowledge. Okay? So there is a primary knowledge. This primary knowledge now functions as your means to generate the next knowledge. The knowledge generated by the Shravanam, Atma is Brahman. You understand this presently, this much is okay. Hmm. Then because in the Pravda Granthas, etc., further things can be discussed in more details. We have the Upanishads have generated the knowledge Atma is Brahman. Therefore, don't use the word Jiva knows Atma is Brahman. He who knows Brahman is Brahman only. No, I never use the word Jiva, etc. You remember the sentence, the message that you have sent? Not Jiva. I will tell you about it why, but later, at some other point. Is this okay? Now, Upanishad, the words have functioned to generate the knowledge. Atma is the self, I is Brahman. Purnam, okay? Now, this knowledge of which is generated by the Upanishad is the Pramanam. Is what? This also becomes a Pramanam. But mind you, you can have the Pramana. But if your eyes keep closed, will the knowledge of the pot take place? If there is darkness outside, will the knowledge take place? If the pot remains covered under the cloth, will the knowledge take place? No. Correct? So we can understand in order for the knowledge to take place, the condition should be optimum, and the optimum condition is that there should not be any obstruction between the praman, the means, and the object to be known. It's not it. Your eyelids can become an obstruction. The darkness can become an obstruction. The cloth can become an obstruction. So, what did we say? What is the optimum condition? To define it in one few words? No, we are going to say there should not be any obstruction in between. What is the nature of the obstruction is different. Sometimes the obstruction, all the three obstructions could be there. Sometimes just one. Sometimes the light is there, cloth is not there, but your eyes are closed. Sometimes your eyes are open, the light is adequate, but the cloth is there. So, simply saying, what are we going to say? There should not be any obstruction between the means which is going to generate the knowledge and the object. Got it? Now, at this point, you have the knowledge generated by the Upanishad vritti. This knowledge A, the primary knowledge is there, which is now going to function as the means. But between the means and that what has to be known. If there are obstructions, what will you do? Knowledge is there, but this is knowledge. But this knowledge has to generate another knowledge, which is the final ultimate knowledge. And if this is obstructed, will this knowledge take place? So knowledge through the Upanishad has already taken place. Yet because of obstructions which are two in nature, one is in the form of prarabdha, the other one is in the form of which is in the form of presence of the vrittis and the vasanas. Now this knowledge, the ultimate knowledge cannot take. That's it. For which the Tattvajnanam has taken place through the Shravanam, Mananam, etc. Now you can say without any problem that I know Atma is Brahman, yet शांति नहीं है. क्यों शांति नहीं है भैया? क्योंकि वो अविद्या वृत्ति, अविद्या पूरी तरह नष्ट नहीं हुई. क्यों नहीं हुई? क्योंकि this knowledge is obstructed from destroying this ignorance final. And therefore, what are the obstructions? The presence of various chitta vrittis and of certain vasanas. It is not happening. And therefore, what is the sadhanam? Vasanakshaya and manonasha. Where's the how? If you have understood this much, now we can very well say that Vasishtha Ramayana and Vidyaranya, etc., all the Purvacharyas, Prachinacharyas, when they are saying that all the three have to be practiced simultaneously for the siddhi of jivanmukti, they are perfectly right. ये केवल एक पक्ष हुआ. There is yet another one which needs to be understood in this context, but one is enough. This much is enough. बाकी का शेष देखा जाएगा. Now, why I'm saying the word, I have never used the word Jiva knows Atma is Brahman. Those are not my words. I told Swamiji, this is not my language at all. It is good you have put it in words. That's why your own words. That's why I can now bring it up so it gets clarified. Say, suppose if the object is a snake and you know it as a rope, is it knowledge? It is still an error. If this is Jiva and Jiva knows I am Brahman, will it be knowledge? That's why there is nothing like Jiva knows Atma is Brahman. No, it is not knowledge. It's Jeev wave nahi. If the Jiva, he is truly Jiva and he says, I am Brahman, that is the problem with this Ramanujas. They're saying you are a Jiva only. If you are Jiva only, then knowing that you are Brahman is obviously an error. Shruti says Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. Only because this Atma is Brahman, you can know Atma is Brahman. If Atma is not Brahman, knowing it as Brahman is a mistake, is an error. Therefore, this I, that what you are saying, I, is indeed that consciousness which is infinite, untouched, uncontaminated by time, space, objects, any conditions, any concepts, anything. By the virtue that unconditioned by time means timeless. Therefore, there is no death, there is no birth. When there is no death and no birth to it, the fear that I am going to die, I will perish, how can there be this insecurity? And therefore, in knowing the true nature of the self, when we say the fear, the insecurity, the bhayam is eradicated, it is natural. What is mystical about it? What is the jumbo, mumbo, jumbo, whatever you say? What's mystical? If I ever say that by knowing the rope, the snake also goes away, even the fear of the snake goes away, what is wrong? Avidya gets destroyed, avidya karyam also gets destroyed. Avidya means ignorance and effects of ignorance. Not knowing the rope is ignorance. Knowing it as snake, then that snake causes fear, trembling, etc. All these things is effects of ignorance. Goes away. Is there anything mystical? Simple and plain. But we people don't want anything that is simple. Give us something. Make us feel spiritual romanticism. Some yogi comes from Himalaya. Then, then he came and he disappeared. Then, then, no, he could fly in the air. So hummingbirds are flying all day and night. Big deal. What's it? If you have a body which is capable of flying, you will fly. Big deal. What is it? The mosquitoes are flying. Do they demand flying mosquito? Flying mosquito. Mosquito can fly because it has a body because of which it can fly. Maybe this yogi has a body which which it can fly. So came from Himalayas, flying from Himalayas. Then what? Then what? Tomorrow this mosquito comes and tells you, you know what? Atma is not Brahman. And you have to believe in it. Why? Because mosquito flies. So you believe in what this yogi is saying because he flies. What is this? What is this? What are you trying to create? This is just fooling people. This is either self deception or deception in general. इसका क्या स्थान है ज्ञान में? ये उड़ता है इसीलिए जो बोलता है वो सत्य है. So what? Just because he's flying, that's why whatever he speaks is right. Is this your criteria of knowing what is right? The flying yogi says, big deal. Let him fly. If he can fly, let him fly to other places. He can, go without paying for the tickets or waiting in the queues for visa. Let him fly. So, so what? हमको ये मत सिखाओ. ये स्टोरीज बता करके रौब मत दिखाओ. ज्ञान है, the knowledge is altogether something different. नहीं ज्ञानेन सदृशम पवित्रम इह विद्यते. There cannot be anything more sacred than knowledge. Shri Krishna says. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. In this world, there is nothing more sacred than knowledge. Sarva karma khilam partha jnane parisamaप्यते. Flying yogis and all these things. Himalaya. Sitting for 200 years, then comes to me. So, then because he's sitting there in the cave for 200 years, that's why whatever he says is correct. He can't make a mistake. Just because he has lived for 200 years, does that give him an authority that what he says is right? बातें हैं ये. अरे ज्ञान, what is right is only when it is generated by defectless प्रमाण. तुम्हारा उड़ना न उड़ना इससे क्या लेन देन है इसकी? What has all these things got to do? You say somebody rises from the dead, that's why what he says is right. क्या बात है? Somebody flies on a donkey, that's why he says is right. Basically, there are these two mistakes. If you want to have faith, you have faith. But it is a cheap replacement for knowledge. In fact, it is not even a replacement, it is pseudo knowledge. Who cannot give knowledge is not a guru. Those who are giving pseudo knowledge, therefore, are pseudo gurus. What guru? क्या बातें करते हो? This is as simple as. But the whole thing was to tell you that here there is knowledge. This knowledge is pramana, which will generate the next final knowledge. But before the final knowledge can be generated, this knowledge is obstructed. And therefore, to strive to have this knowledge and to remove the obstructions, is the sadhanam. Where is the difficulty? लेकिन ये एक ही पक्ष हुआ. दूसरा पक्ष ये है, आपको एक संकेत दे करके छोड़ते हैं. जस्ट गिव यू एन इंडिकेशन एंड देन एंड दिस मॉर्निंग सेशन. याज्ञवल्क्य is Tattvajnani. He is Brahmajnani. Okay? The story goes, you know that. And he comes to his wife and now he says that, look here, Maitreyi, I'm taking to sannyas. You can understand somebody taking to sannyas for the sake of knowledge. But the one in whom the knowledge has already taken place, why is he taking to sannyas? That's why, what did we say in the beginning? What is the purpose of Vividisha sannyasa? And its result? What is the purpose of Vidvat sannyas? ये द्वितीय पक्ष है, लेकिन इसका केवल ये एक संकेत है. ज्ञान हो चुका है, फिर संन्यास क्यों? क्या जरूरत है इनको? शास्त्र ये प्रोविजन क्यों करता है? व्यवस्था क्यों बता रहा है? अगर विद्वत संन्यास है तो ये विद्वत संन्यास लेकर करेगा क्या? क्या? इसलिए मनोनाश वासना क्षय तत्व ज्ञान वहां पे. ओके, ये दिस इज जस्ट अ संकेत, एक इंडिकेशन. एंड नाउ दिस topic is, I have tried to explain it to the best of my ability. So we can go ahead and now still further, where Bhagavad Gita now shows you that Daivi Sampada, or the Daivi Sampat, the divine wealth, will release the person from Bandha, and the Asuri Sampada, the demonic qualities, will cause bondage. Therefore, by having the divine qualities, the demonic qualities are all neutralized, destroyed, made ineffective, this dissolved. This is then what is called as Vasanakshaya. And the pramanam is Mokshaya Daivi Sampat, and Asuri Sampat, Nibandhaya Asuri Mata. So we will go ahead with that part from this evening again. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashikatau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम महादेव महादेव महादेव।